So what I would like to do here is provide an in-depth and detailed analysis and breakdown of Super Tuesday, which is coming up this Tuesday. I'd like to break down both the Republican side of it as well as the Democratic side of it. Obviously, a huge day for all the candidates on both sides. Everyone needs a big showing, but only one person is really going to get one. And right now on the Republican side, it's looking like Donald Trump's going to completely dominate Super Tuesday. He's not trailing in any state. The only state where he's even being contested in is Ted Cruz's home state of Texas, which still, depending on the poll you look at, he's still winning and outside the margin of error. On the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton is completely wiping the floor with Bernie Sanders everywhere with the exception of Massachusetts, which Bernie Sanders has a 4 or 5 point lead in, according to the International Business Times polls that I'm referencing, as well as obviously his home state of Vermont, which he has close to 90% of the vote. So go figure there. First of all, I'm going to start with the Republican side of it, give a breakdown of that, and then we'll move on to the Democratic side of it. Now, obviously, the Republicans had a debate last night on CNN, which was moderated by Wolf Blitzer and co-moderated by some Telemundo hosts, and it was just a shit show. I mean, just to put it plain and simple. Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz going in. They knew they had to attack Donald Trump, and they completely did. They did all night. They went after Donald Trump, every single thing he's done wrong in his life. I mean, it was just nonstop, bringing up their record versus Donald Trump's record of his supporting Planned Parenthood, really not putting forth a detailed enough plan in repealing and replacing Obamacare, building the Mexican wall, as well as some illegal scams that Donald Trump was allegedly involved in regarding Trump University and the building of Trump Towers. So Marco Rubio went at him nonstop. And this morning at a stump rally in Dallas, Marco Rubio had this to say, just to build on his narrative of attacking Donald Trump.
You want to have a little fun? All right. What does Donald Trump do when things go wrong? He takes to Twitter. I have him right here. Let's read some. You'll have fun. All right, number one, here's the first one. Lightweight Marco Rubio was working hard last night. This is true. The problem is he is a chalker. And once a chalker, always a choker. I guess that's what he meant to say. He spelled choker, C-H-O-K-E-R, chalker. He called me Mr. Meltdown. Let me tell you something. Last night in the debate during one of the breaks, two of the breaks, he went backstage. He was having a meltdown.
So as you can see, someone in Marco Rubio's campaign, whether it's his campaign manager or someone close to him, has been telling him that he needs to go after Donald Trump. I mean, Marco Rubio has not won a primary or a caucus, and his lack of attacks at Donald Trump have really just been feeding that Ted Cruz narrative that, hey, I'm the only person who's beaten Donald Trump and that can beat Donald Trump. And so Marco Rubio just went full-on apeshit at Donald Trump last night. And depending on which side of the aisle you sit on, some people saw it as a victory. Some people saw it as just making himself look stupid because Donald Trump supporters are not going to leave Donald Trump. And I personally saw it as a pretty decent victory. I'm not sure how it will impact him going into Super Tuesday, but I definitely think he won the debate last night. And Donald Trump was exposed. I mean, once again, I'm not sure whether or not it will have an adverse effect upon him, but he was definitely exposed for not having solid plans in terms of healthcare reform, in terms of the military. Just really did not look as comfortable in that driver's seat that we're used to seeing Donald Trump. And I really think CNN knew what they were doing by asking him question after question. They were trying to grill him. I'm sure there were tons of establishment lobbyists in the audience. So you could definitely tell CNN was trying to play into their hands a little bit. But, what can you say? Anyway, like I showed you in that clip earlier, Marco Rubio's going to have to continue to make attacks on Donald Trump like he did in that stump speech, like he did last night at the debate. He really should have been doing this a long time ago because you can't win the presidential nomination going for second place, which is essentially what he's been doing by arguing with Ted Cruz this whole time about their amnesty records, their Senate records, etc. You've got to go after the front runner because at the end of the day, the person with the most delegates is going to be the nomination. And right now it's Donald Trump. So personally, I think that Donald Trump's going to dominate on Super Tuesday. According to the polls, it's not likely that he'll lose any states, with the exception of Texas, that Ted Cruz, depending on the polls that you look at, has a slight lead or is slightly trailing Donald Trump. So outside of Texas, I mean, it's looking really grim for Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz. Of course, John Kasich and Ben Carson are like the odd men out in this, just basically there to have an activity to do, I guess. But like I said, Donald Trump looking pretty solid for a Super Tuesday win. And if he does do what the polls are expecting him to do, I don't think there's any stopping him at this point. I think I think he'll have an insurmountable lead and he'll be well on his way to the nomination. Now, Chris Christie came out and endorsed Donald Trump today. And one of his reasons for that, according to some sources, was that he realizes that Donald Trump is imminent. He's going to win. And the Republican grassroots establishment just needs to accept that and stop trying to stop him and get behind him and support him, at least according to some of his campaign sources for Chris Christie. So gives you a little bit of an insight there as to the thought process of that endorsement. Now, moving on to the Democratic side, not too much different from the Republican side. Except with the exception of Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton having a much tighter race nationally and prior to Super Tuesday. But Hillary Clinton is leading in every single state with the exception of Massachusetts and of Vermont, which obviously those two states have more of that Sanders demographic, white, liberal, lots of young college students, etc., etc. When you get into the SEC states, which are the majority of the states that will be voting on Tuesday, obviously large black populations, Hillary Clinton obviously dominates among the black population. So I really can't see her slipping up too much on Super Tuesday. If you are a Bernie Sanders supporter, though, do not worry. It's not over if you don't have the best showing on Super Tuesday. Also, Bernie Sanders has essentially conceded South Carolina, which votes tomorrow. Hence the reason he's not in South Carolina while Hillary Clinton is. So yeah, it's not over, but you're definitely going to have an uphill battle to go up to try to catch up with Hillary Clinton. But I do think that Bernie Sanders has an opportunity to win a lot of those West Coast states that tend to be a lot more liberal. Your Washingtons, your Oregons, your Colorados, your Californias, etc. on the West Coast. So it's still not over yet, but it's going to be tough for Senator Sanders to catch up for sure. For Hillary Clinton, if you're a Hillary Clinton supporter like myself personally, it's not over yet. It's still a long way to go. And apparently Reuters just put out a poll, I believe it was yesterday, that had Bernie Sanders leading nationally. That poll is actually incorrect, according to thedailybanner.com, who just put out an article the other day talking about how that poll was skewed in terms of the people that were surveyed. However, I still think it is indicative of the fact that Bernie Sanders is gaining a lot of ground nationally. He's still lacking a lot of support from black voters, which is essential to win the Democratic nomination. So he's going to have to try to pick it up a little bit in that regard if he wants to seriously be the Democratic nominee for president of the United States. But I do think that if Senator Sanders exposes some of his history versus Hillary Clinton's history in terms of civil rights, obviously Bernie Sanders protested in 1962 and was arrested for the desegregation of Chicago public schools, as well as attending Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech and his March on Washington in the 60s. So Bernie Sanders does have a pretty decent civil rights history that he could bring up against Hillary Clinton, who at that same time was actually supporting Goldwater, who's a pro-segregation governor in the South. So, you could definitely bring that up if you're Bernie. Also, you could bring up NAFTA and TPP, which cost thousands of Americans, mainly African Americans in the Midwest, jobs that were expedited, shipped out to other countries. So I definitely think that Bernie Sanders, in conclusion, if he's going to win this nomination, he's got to attack Hillary Clinton a lot harder than he's been doing. He's got to stop being so soft, essentially, on the issues. On the Republican side, there's really no stopping Trump. I mean, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, they can try to blockade it all they want with the establishment lobbyists and super PACs, but I just cannot see any way any way to stop Donald Trump in his quest for the nomination. So once again, guys, that was my breakdown of Super Tuesday, which is a huge day in politics in the United States, especially in this race for president. So if you have not voted, I encourage you to go out and vote. No matter who you're voting for, just go out and vote. Do your research. Support the candidate that you feel is the best candidate. If you have voted, good job. If you're not registered, go out and register. Once again, guys, if you like this video, if you like the content, drop a like, and let me know in the comment section below, who do you guys think will be the big winners on Super Tuesday. So thanks for checking out the video, guys, and I hope you guys have a good weekend.